Last night, Tom Steyer officially qualified for the next Democratic candidates debate, which will be in Iowa next week. The deadline to qualify is today, and he has made it. In the days leading up to today's deadline, it really didn't seem like Tom Steyer was going to make it onto that debate stage. He was in low single digits in most national and statewide polls. He needed better numbers in at least 2 polls. But then last night, last minute, almost out of nowhere, he came in really close to the top of the polls in 2 early states, polling 3rd, tied with Elizabeth Warren for 3rd in Nevada at a whopping 12%, double digits, right? 12% tied for 3rd. And look at this, 2nd place in South Carolina. Joe Biden's way out of front, right? But look who's 2nd, Tom Steyer, 15% in South Carolina. Frankly, a surprise for politics geeks, right? For those of us who pore over each new poll, a surprise. But if you are a TV watcher in the great state of South Carolina or the great state of Nevada, it was probably less surprising to you, because check this out. Along with the fresh numbers we got today on total ad spending for all the candidates, we also got a breakdown of what the candidates are spending by state. And it makes the puzzle kind of easy to solve. All right, so far the candidates combined have spent $17 million on political ads just in the state of South Carolina. OK, 17 million in TV and radio ads, South Carolina alone. Here's how you solve the puzzle. Of that $17 million spent in South Carolina, 14 million of it was spent by Tom Steyer. Oh, that's how it works. Tom Steyer has spent more on ads in South Carolina than Pete Buttigieg or Bernie Sanders has spent on ads nationwide for their entire campaign. Same thing in Nevada, the other state that helped deliver Tom Steyer a surprise spot on the debate stage. So far, there have been $11.6 million in total spent on political ads in Nevada by everybody. Of that $11.6 million total spent on Nevada ads, $10.4 million of that spent by Tom Steyer. His Nevada-only ad spending is more than all of the ad spending by Biden, Warren, and Klobuchar combined nationwide. So I guess it must be nice to know that he got his money's worth, that spending tens of millions of dollars in these 2 states worked. But we've got more news than that. Today, Mayor Bloomberg announced that even if he does not himself win the Democratic presidential nomination, he says he will throw the weight of his campaign, by which I mean the gazillions of dollars that come along with it. He says he will throw his money behind whoever is the Democratic nominee running against Donald Trump. Again, even if it is not him. Today, my colleague Andrea Mitchell asked Tom Steyer if he, too, would pledge to keep his money in the race in support of the eventual Democratic nominee, even if the eventual nominee is not named Tom Steyer. Mr. Steyer said in response, quote, "The question about whether I will continue to support progressive causes, progressive candidates, and the Democratic Party is something I've always said I would do," which I think is a yes. Maybe. But that leaves us with a wild and baffling dynamic in the Democratic primary right now. 2 billionaires pouring what seems like endless amounts of money into the race, sounding like they'll keep the money flowing for whoever is still in this right to November. But at least in the case of Tom Steyer in this next debate, it seems pretty clear that the reason he's going to be on the debate stage is just because he spent all of the money that anybody was spending in both Nevada and South Carolina.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.